Hi, everybody. I'm Blaine Gilmer. Welcome to another edition of Bulldawg Illustrated's The Inside Slant. As always, trying to bring you everything UGA, everything UGA football, and particularly this year, at this time of the year, recruiting is a big deal. And one of the biggest targets that UGA has in the 2022 class is tight end from West Forsyth High School in Cumming, Georgia, Oscar Delp. Oscar, thanks for joining us tonight, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing well. So we were kind of talking and getting preparation for this. You just came off a big weekend of 7-on-7, and we'll get into team hustle and all that right now, Hustle Inc. But we'll get into that in just a minute. But what's the off season been like for you, man? Since you guys at West Forsyth finished, I think 9-4 in the quarterfinals of the playoffs. What's it been like since that time?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been pretty crazy lately. I came off a injury, got hurt right before the playoffs. Had to get surgery on my hand. Luckily, that healed up very well, and I'm back to 100%. Right now, I'm doing football workouts a couple days a week, every morning, and then I have lacrosse every day after school, and then 7-on-7 on the weekend. So I'm full go.
Absolutely. So saw some highlights of lacrosse deal there. 3 goals in a game, a little behind the back goal there shot for you. How long have you been playing lacrosse?
I've been playing lacrosse my whole life, just as long as I've been playing football. My dad played lacrosse in college at Rutgers, so it's kind of a thing I grew up watching and fell in love with it.
Absolutely. So, often most guys that end up making their way into the college ranks of football, oftentimes are playing multiple sports. So that definitely shows your athleticism and size there in lacrosse. But wanted to touch with you on your recruitment, man. I know you just dropped the top 13. Said everything's still open, but I know Georgia has been there kind of every step of the way. What's recruitment like in general, and then we'll get into Georgia in just a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, before I dropped that top 13, it was just crazy. Kind of got a little bit too hectic, just phone calls every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, phone always blowing up. So I kind of dropped that just to focus on a certain amount of schools that I could see myself possibly going to in the future and just kind of chilling out with all the phone calls and all the Zooms every single day.
Can't imagine. I know everybody during COVID-19, whether they're a recruit or just in the workplace every day, is kind of probably getting tired of doing all this Zoom and things of that nature. But I can't imagine, more than 13 had to be crazy. But even with 13 still left, I mean, is it just nonstop with these coaches, since it's the only way they can contact you is through phone and Zoom and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely nonstop. I mean, it's crazy and it can get annoying at times, but I'm blessed and it's a dream come true and I love every second of it.
Absolutely, and I know that, like I said, I know we'll get into Georgia in a minute, but I think kind of early on, Michigan had a big run kind of going at you. I know you've done some interviews recently talking about South Carolina and Clemson and things like that. Just what is it like in general with all these schools that are traditional powerhouses? I mean, you've grown up training for this and dreaming of playing at the next level, things like that. But now it's kind of there in sight. Is it a motivating factor, or is it kind of just like, man, this is kind of unbelievable?
Yeah, it's definitely a motivating factor. I mean, every week I got to prove that I deserve it all and I'm worthy of all this. I mean, it's crazy getting off the phone calls with some of these coaches like Dabo Sweeney, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart. I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah, most people will never. I know I didn't go through that. Most people never will. So, like you said, definitely blessed and a lot kind of going in your favor right now. And in terms of Georgia, uh, particularly at the tight end position, Todd Hartley has kind of been known for the last few years of finding a guy, a big time target, and going after him, kind of closing the deal. Darnell Washington, Brock Bowers. Now you're kind of that guy that seems like Todd Hartley's been focusing on. What's the relationship been like there with Todd Hartley so far as Georgia's been recruiting you?
It's awesome. I mean, probably the strongest relationship I have with the coach by a good amount. I mean, we're talking almost every day. He's talking to my parents, my family. I mean, he's a family man. He's not just about football. He really cares about you as a person and everything. He's easy to talk to, and I enjoy talking with him a lot.
Absolutely. So have you kind of looked as a recruit from your vantage point, when you're doing your research and stuff like that, do you kind of look at, okay, here's the guys that they've signed at this position before me, and here's what the tight end room could look like when I go join this place? I mean, is that part of your decision, or is it more about your fit and how things would be for you personally as you go throughout the decision?
I'd say a little bit of both. I mean, I'm definitely looking at that tight end room to see where I stand that first day I'm in there. I mean, I'm one of those players that'll compete for a spot no matter what. I mean, I'm not going to be in the transfer portal going back and forth just so I can start. I mean, once I get there, I'm going to grind it out and earn that spot, and that's pretty much that.
If it does end up being Georgia, let's say you end up coming to a decision and down the line you end up liking to go to Georgia, what has Coach Hartley and Coach Smart kind of talked about how crazy talented that tight end room could be with you, Brock Bowers, and Darnell Washington all
Hmm.
three in it at the same time?
Yeah, they have. I mean, Coach Hartley's been telling me that me and Bowers be the future of that room and the future of that offense. And Coach Munkin has done some Zoom with me, just showing me how they want to use that position going forward and how it can really help elevate that.
You said that you talked to Coach Hartley, kind of on a daily basis. How often, or when's like kind of the last time you've gotten to talk to Coach Smart and Coach Munkin, like you just said, and what's the dynamic there? With those, obviously Coach Munkin being new OC and kind of just getting his style really implemented at the end of last year, and then Coach Smart, more of a defensive minded coach, but still a guy who definitely wants that high powered offense there at Georgia. What's kind of those dynamics been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome talking with them. I talked with Coach Smart last week a couple times, talked to him on Friday. Coach Hartley it's pretty much every day. He's always texting me back and forth, giving me calls at night. So I mean, there's not really a certain time where we're calling each other. It's just whenever they're free, whenever I'm free, and we're always just shooting texts back and forth.
Absolutely. So, speaking of the future of Georgia, you have a teammate at Hustle Inc., and I said we'd get around to Hustle Inc. For those of you who don't know, Tony Bauer runs Hustle Inc. here, local Georgia team that travels all over the country doing 7-on-7. They just had a big tournament up in Myrtle Beach, finished second overall out of 90 teams, is what Oscar was telling me earlier. But the quarterback on that team is Gunnar Stockton, who just committed to Georgia. How big has Gunnar been working on you and some of the other talented guys there now that he's committed to the G?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely working on it. He's a great kid, great dude. I mean, we were fortunate to room together this weekend, so I really got to meet him and talk with him and hang out with him. I mean, he's not pushy. He knows he's been through the process and he knows what's right, what's not right. But I mean, he's definitely pushing for the Dogs and he wants to play with me, Denylon, and Kojo all at the same time in that offense.
And it, like you said, Denylon Morissette from Brookwood, Kojo Antwi from Lambert, and then also on the defensive side of the ball, you guys got Daniel Martin from Marietta over there. I think Michael Daughtery, who's a year below you guys, is playing with you. I mean, the amount of talent that is on Hustle Inc. is quite outstanding, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Marquise Groves Killebrew is also committed to the Dogs. He's on there. I mean, and all the huddles, it's always someone's always saying, "Go Dogs, go Dogs." I mean, and there's a very good chance. I mean, all those guys could end up together and really I think bring Georgia a national championship in the next couple of years.
Oh yes, I think it was Chad Simmons or something like that. One of the big recruiting guys was there at the tournament and took a picture of I think five of y'all together, and it just sent the internet crazy. Talking about
Yep.
what could be. But man, in terms of kind of getting a double dose of it because you're rooming with Gunnar Stockton, but also you've got one of you guys that man, he's been one of your boys for the last couple of years, Dylan Fairchild. That you've been lined up right beside. Of course, Dylan signed with Georgia. What's it been like seeing? How much did you learn from Dylan going through this process as a highly coveted recruit as well?
Oh, I've learned a ton. Can't thank him enough. I mean, just the whole COVID situation and just being a new recruit to all of this and not really getting that true recruiting where you can go out and see schools. He really helped me handle it all and kind of walk me through some steps about just talking with coaches, doing interviews and everything, and just really finding the right place for you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna let some of your highlights roll here. People see you in action. That thing says 6'4", 6'4.5". They shortchange you a little bit. You up board around the 6'5" mark these days?
Yeah. I mean, people tell me I'm taller than 6'5" or I'm around 6'5", but I like to play it safe and say 6'4.5" because I've been measured different measurements at different places.
Yeah, take the conservative approach. I like it, but
Yep.
definitely one thing I know for a guy your size, you can definitely run. I was at the Mill Creek game. I think it might be this play right here. Yeah, over the middle where you catch it and then end up breaking. I'm actually going to be right there towards the goal line, right there, taking
Yep.
pictures of you as you went by. But you know, one thing that's obvious is not only do you have great hands, but you can definitely run and separate from people, whether it be routes or once you get into open fields. If you had to line up and run a 40 time today, what do you think you could hit?
I'd like to say low 4.6s, maybe a high 4.5 right now. Definitely
I
got my
got
speed
you.
up.
I got you. That's awesome. Definitely, you were definitely showing some breakaway speed. Like I said, during the year, had a lot of big plays. You led your team with 730 yards on the season. That was only in 9 games, so it kind of would be crazy to see what you could have done with a full complement of games. And I know that's something you got to be excited about. Heading into your senior year with West Forsyth, kind of some unfinished business, if you will.
Yes, sir.
So, in terms of the timeline here of recruiting, what do you think is gonna? Are you really just kind of holding out and hoping you get to do some of those visits if the NCAA changes things around, or kind of what's the mindset here before you end up saying, okay, because you said you didn't want to be a guy who goes in the transfer portal. Once you make your mind up, that's it. What's it kind of going to take for you to end up where you're comfortable in making a decision, with one of these 13 schools?
Yeah, I'd like to say I'm going to wait it out as long as I can. But if it comes to a point where I have to go to these schools in person, I think that's what I'm going to do. But I know I'm not going to make a decision until I at least take some trips on my own and just kind of see everywhere with my feet in the ground.
Yeah, and have you talked to any guys that maybe were in the 2021 class that had to do the trips on their own? I mean, how kind of a weird dynamic that is. I know Brock Bowers himself that ended up going. He came all the way from California just to visit Athens, just to make sure, see if that was where he wanted to be. Have you got to see what those experiences are like for anybody?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely different, but everyone says you still can get the feel for everything. I mean, I've heard players go and stay with other players that are on the team. And they kind of show them around. I actually went up to Athens on my own with Dylan for the Mississippi State game, and we kind of got to see a little bit of everything, and that was really cool.
That's great, man. So, would the goal be maybe to hopefully have it wrapped up before the senior year, or are you somebody who could take this all the way in, throughout next season?
I could definitely take it through next season. I think with my decision, I'm just gonna make it right when I know where home is. I'm not going to be one of those players that wait, hype it up a bunch, and set a date 2 months out when they know where they're going. I think when I know where I'm going, I'm going right away.
I got you. Well, obviously, man, you can see here on the film, everybody watching can see, just how talented you are. But not only, on some of these highlights, of course, you're catching a lot of passes and stuff. But they really used you a lot as a blocker. They would even take you and Dylan and move you together in tandem, one side to another, tight end and tackle. How much pride do you take in that part of your game as well? Because obviously, I know whether it's Michigan, Georgia, Clemson, wherever, that they're teams that pride themselves on physicality. So is that going to be is that something that you really focus on as well, getting prepared for your senior year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if I couldn't do that stuff, I wouldn't be a tight end. I'd just be a receiver. So, I mean, that really shows my ability that I can run routes, catch passes, and help out on the O-line and make some of those big blocks.
Absolutely. Well, Oscar, like I said, we know it's apparent that the talent level you have. We know that there's, with good reason, that Georgia's highly wanting your skill set to come to Athens, as well as 12 other major programs now that you've narrowed things down. And we just appreciate you. I know it's very busy, but appreciate you taking a little bit of time to visit with us here on Bulldawg Illustrated.
I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. That was Oscar Delp, who's been highly coveted, recruited by everybody, in the country pretty much. Has narrowed it down to 13 schools, but we're kind of seeing that he's got a great relationship with Todd Hartley and Georgia Bulldogs. So we'll kind of see how his recruitment goes, and we will be with you later on, probably next week, with another episode of Bulldawg Illustrated's The Inside Slant.